The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Nick Fantasy. Sign up with the promo code SGPN, get a $1,000 bonus credit. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It's currently Tuesday afternoon, April 22nd, roughly 3:20 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm always Scott Reichel, once again, going solo for this pod. Time to break down the outrights for Madrid. So we're going to break down the quarter odds as well. We have quarters and we have the full tournament. First of all, I do want to address the elephant in the room, which was the very weird intro and presentation. We ended up switching streaming platforms, so we are kind of doing a test run here on the Tennis Gambling Podcast. So once again, SGPN will be switching over to a new streaming platform. So either way, point is I'm still kind of experimenting with the countdowns, the music, and stuff like that. But hopefully the picture's coming in good. Hopefully the sound's coming in well. And once again, we hopefully are going to keep the quality of the podcast up here, even though we're trying to experiment on the fly with all of the slight detail changes regarding the behind-the-scenes stuff. Anyway, before we get into the actual breakdown of the outrights here in Madrid, quick recap of how we did in the last episode. Unfortunately, we were not that great as we ended up losing the lock and the dog in the Barcelona and Munich finals. So for the lock, we ended up having Rune with the team total under 9.5 at minus 120. Bad read. Rune was fantastic, and he was able to get the job done in straight sets. Didn't see a straight sets win coming, but either way, nice job. Definitely a very close match where it came down to the wire, at least early on in that first set, and then it felt like eventually Rune just outlasted Alcaraz. He won in straight sets. So overall, a very high-quality match, but Rune was really never, I'd say, going to go under the team total. You could tell when it kind of just started that the only hope we had was Alcaraz winning in a breaker, and then Rune falling apart. That's what happened with Alcaraz falling apart, but either way, the point is Rune did a good job as he won the title. For the dog, though, picked up a loss with Shelton and Zverev over half a tiebreak at plus 110. Didn't get there, as you ended up seeing Zverev win comfortably in straight sets. Unfortunately, Shelton did look better in the second set, but he got broken to start the second set, and at that point, it was over. So either way, the point is Zverev was too good. Shelton really never threatened to force a breaker, and Zverev got the job done in his home country, winning his first title in a while. But either way, point is Rune, and Zverev got the job done. Zverev wasn't too surprising. I thought he'd win straight sets. Rune, though, was kind of a shock. You figured after Alcaraz won Monte Carlo, and with him being in his home country in Spain, kind of figured he'd be able to dominate, and he just did not. So either way, nice job by Rune and Zverev getting the job done as they were able to win in straight sets. You can argue that it was kind of boring, at least the Zverev match was. It was pretty lopsided. The Rune match was very high quality for about the first hour and a half, and then at that point, the match kind of ended because Alcaraz ran out of gas, and Rune was just too solid. So nice win for him. Been a really interesting start to the year for Rune, mostly negative, but he was able to once again figure it out for at least 1 week as he was able to win the title there as a pretty decent underdog in the final. So nice job there by Rune. Anyway, for the actual preview in Madrid, a reminder, this is a 1,000 event. It's the only event going on in the week. And a reminder that we're going to cover every round of the tournament. So once again, if you do want to get some thoughts from me on the second round, third round, etc., we will have multiple episodes this week. So once again, stay tuned for that as we are doing every round of this event in Madrid. Now, for the recent winners, you have Rublev, who actually did end up beating Felix in the final last year in a marathon three-setter. So Alcaraz beat Struff the year prior, as Struff was on a Cinderella run, and Alcaraz beat him in 3, and Alcaraz did beat Berrettini in the final the year prior. So Alcaraz, kind of like Barcelona, he has won the title in 2 of the last 3 years, and we'll see if he can get back on track after losing in the final of Barcelona this past weekend. You could also argue about fatigue, because he has played Monte Carlo and Barcelona and now Madrid. Maybe fatigue will be an issue, but Alcaraz does, of course, have a bye in the first round. It's in his home country. I think he'll be fine. I'll mention the draw in a second, but I think it's pretty favorable. Point is, though, Alcaraz is playing for the 3rd straight week, and we'll see how he does physically, but I think he should look fine in this tournament that he's won multiple times in his home country. Anyway, getting right into the actual breakdown of the quarters here. Forward to that, though, actually a quick reminder that you can also show support for the show. But like, subscribe on YouTube. Reminder, you can also leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple, as I have in the new ticker down below. So a reminder that if you do want to support the show, don't forget you can help the show grow on YouTube by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. We broke 900 a couple episodes ago. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of May. Hopefully we can help the show get there by that deadline. And a reminder, you can also check out the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a great Tennis Game Podcast merch with sweatshirts, t-shirts, and mugs. High quality, very affordable. And once again, really recommend checking it out, not just for this show, but the other shows on the network. Plus a reminder, for the actual promo that we have for this week, we have a draft watch party going on with SGPN. So if you want to actually tune in to see some of us try to predict where certain players are going, don't forget to tune into the SGPN draft show. Watch party once again for the entire first round, one of our NFL draft streams that we tend to have every year, not just to mention the fact that you're going to get a lot of, I'd say, fun contributors showing up, and I'm sure it's going to go off the rails as it always does. But once again, it features all of our favorite hosts and our fans from SGPN. Tune in Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, once again, youtube.com/sportscampodcast to join the live stream watch party. Anyway, moving on to the actual preview of the outright. Starting off with the quarter plays, with the first quarter. For the first quarter, this is the Zverev quarter, fresh off the title of Munich. He's plus 185. Shop around, though. A lot of different books have different lines available for quarters, actually, and for the hours to win the event. Zverev, though, is the favorite at plus 185. You have fees at 450. You have Rublev at 450 as well. You have Cerundolo at 6-1. Vakina's at 8-1. You have Mensik at 12-1. You have Shelton at 18-1. You have Navone at 20-1. You have Monfils at 28-1. Same thing with Papirin. You also have Borges at 40, you Munar at 40, Mickelson at 40. If you want to go for Baena, that's at 50. Pericard's at 50 as well, and you kind of get the point. So the question that I have here, basically just going over quickly, do I think anybody has a shot to win the first quarter? I'll mention one long shot in a second, but nobody that's an extreme long shot. I would not go north of 30-1. I just don't see much value on any of those guys listed. Before the actual quarter, Zverev, of course, is the favorite, and he's off of a title, so maybe he's finally back on track. Now, you're looking at his path, not bad, as Munar or Gut in the second round, then probably Vakina in the third round, which is manageable, then Cerundolo or Fees in the fourth round, which is honestly not that bad because you're looking at Comasagna, who might have a war against Martinez. Maybe one of them could beat Fees, probably not, but you're looking at what should be Zverev against whoever survives the Cerundolo and Fees matchup, which should be a fun one, but I am going to go with Zverev here at 190. Think based on form, he's playing good tennis right now, and I do think that we know that when he's on, he is definitely a top 3 caliber clay player in the world. He was the French Open finals last year that did lose to Alcaraz in 5 sets. I think he's in a good overall headspace right now, and I do think that after winning the title on his birthday, actually, I think he's in a good spot at this draw, or with this draw, to get the job done. Give me Zverev at plus 190 is my first choice for the first quarter outright. For the second quarter, I am going to go with Fees at 5-1. Now, I do acknowledge that he is in a pretty difficult draw, as you would have to face off against Comasagna or Martinez, then probably Cerundolo in the third round, then Zverev in the fourth round. But still, the point is he's only lost to 2 guys on clay, or 2 matches on clay over the last 2 weeks, and both were to Alcaraz. So besides that, he's looked great. Now, I am going to point out that Tsitsipas only lasted 2 games before quitting. But the point is, Fees has played good tennis. I do think 5-1 is a good price. I think he could beat Zverev in theory, but 5-1 I like as an option. So I'll go with him as my second choice here. And for the third choice, out of all the odds on DraftKings that I mentioned, I did say I would not go north of 30-1. I did mention a guy at 28-1, but I found 39-1 shopping around. He's a guy that's actually been playing okay recently. He has won a clay title before on the ATP level, and he did end up winning a 1,000 title actually last year on hard court. Give me Papirin at 39-1. I like the price. I think the draw is actually not that bad for him. If you're looking at the bottom half of that quarter, he has Mickelson or Bublik after a bye, actually, in the first round. So he should be favored in the second round match there than either Rublev, defending champion, or Monfils. Not easy. They might have a rematch of the clay match they had a couple weeks ago, and you might end up seeing an upset there. But I like Papirin with that actual draw. Said before, he avoids Fees and avoids once again Cerundolo and Zverev until the quarterfinal match, but he would have to face off against Shelton or Mensik in that once again fourth round match. Not that bad. I think the draw is pretty good actually for 39-1, and you're looking at a guy who's been good on clay in the past. He has won a 1,000 title before. I think it's a good price. And if Papirin finds his rhythm, I know that the court speeds in Madrid are pretty fast compared to most clay events. I think the firepower could translate well here, so I am going to go with Papirin at 39-1 as my last choice for the first quarter. Moving on to the second quarter. This is the Rune quarter, fresh off the title in Barcelona. He's around plus 250. You have Ruud at 330. You have Fritz at 350, who has not played a clay match yet this season. You have Medvedev at 7-1. You have Felix at 750. You have Hurkacz at 16-1. De Gier at 18-1. Court at 22-1. Cilic 22-1. After having a dominant run in the Challenger circuit. You have Ugo Carabelli at 25-1. Morozin at 28-1. Who made a good run into the semis in Munich. You have Caboli at 35-1. And you kind of get the point. So for the actual draw here for the main guys, starting off with Rune, I think his draw is okay. I'm not going to tell you that it's definitely a pushover, but it's not bad. He has a bye in the first round, then Morozin or Caboli in the second round. Well, it should be a very fun first round match, though, between the two of them. So we'll see who survives that one. But Rune, after winning the title in Barcelona, you could argue one might go back to being kind of a clown, where he ends up having some type of illness, or he just ends up no showing a match and ends up losing early, or he builds in it and maybe he ends up playing well here. I'm going to go with option B. I think the draw is not that bad. He does have a potential matchup against either Felix or Medvedev, which is fine. Felix has been really bad recently. Medvedev, we know, is not the greatest on clay. But I'll go with Rune here at around 250. Think that he's playing good tennis, and I understand that he's a head case. If you want to skip it, I don't blame you. But I do think for the sake of predicting the actual quarter, think he's got a pretty decent path, and he's got good form, and I say good enough form to get the job done. Give me Rune at plus 250 as my first choice. For the second choice, I will go with the dangerous option of Fritz at 360. I like the draw, simply put. Now, you're looking at actual, I'd say, the path here for Fritz. Once again, not bad. As probably O'Connell or Ugo Carabelli in the second round after a bye. You have either Hurkacz or Cilic, probably. Now, Hurkacz hasn't played in a while, so we'll see how they go. But Fritz has been okay on clay. Did lose to Ruud in the French Open last year in the fourth round, I believe. Point is, though, he's a pretty decent clay player, but the court speeds are pretty fast here compared to most clay events, and Fritz does have the very good serve. I'll go with Fritz to make a pretty decent run here. Might have a rematch, though, against Ruud in one of the later rounds, which I think can go in his favor. We'll see. Ruud has really not been that great, so you might end up seeing an opportunity where Ruud maybe ends up struggling. Who knows? But I am going to go with a skip over on Ruud. Just don't trust him enough, but I think Fritz has a pretty decent path, and I think that his serve can be good enough here on clay. Might take a match or so to get readjusted to clay, but I do think the price is okay. I'll go with him at around plus 360 as my second choice in the second quarter. For the third choice, though, I am going to go with Medvedev at 8-1. Now, I understand he's not exactly great on clay. However, he's better than you might think. And he has been able to beat some, I'd say, decent players recently. Beat Kashanov in that three-setter. But you're looking at Medvedev, who has won a 1,000 title on clay before. And you're looking at a guy who I think, once again, can be a bit underrated on clay. I know that according to his actual words, he hates clay, but his path's not that bad. Felix, he's owned the head-to-head, and Felix has been really bad lately. Could he beat Rune? Maybe. I probably wouldn't pick him to, but Medvedev, besides getting killed by de Minaur on clay about a week or two ago, has been fine so far this season, and I do think the path is not that bad. But you're looking at what I think is a pretty open quarter with Fritz, Ruud, and Rune being the main three guys who I think each of them are not trustworthy in their own ways. I think that it's worth taking something on an 8-1 shot with a pretty decent draw. Give me Medvedev as my second choice here at around 8-1. Or my long shot choice, for the quarter. So once again, my three choices for the second quarter: Rune at 250, Fritz at 360, and I am going to go with, once again, Medvedev at 8-1. Anyway, before we get into any of the other outright picks for the other two quarters, quick reminder: they are brought to you by our sponsor, which is EdgeBoost. You ever tried to deposit into your account around 2 a.m. and you've had your deposit denied? That can be very annoying. That'll happen to you, though, with EdgeBoost, because the first ever bank account built for bettors. You could also use it for fast, reliable access to your money, make it easier to move money where and when you need it. You could also use it without traditional, once again, bank delays that you would get. Plus, a reminder, you could also get a great deal when it comes to cashback rewards, because every time you deposit into a qualified gambling account, you get cash rewards to 0.5%. All this for no usage fees and no minimum balance. And a reminder, you can also use their responsible gambling tools to help you make informed decisions with your bankroll. What are you waiting for? Go to edgeboost.bet, go to SGPN. Once again, sign up for your EdgeBoost card today. We're also brought to you by MyBookie.ag. They have the book to bet in every sport. They have props in the NFL draft. They have the NBA playoffs. They have the NHL playoffs. They have tennis as well, MLB, etc. You can also bet on, once again, props for every game. You can also use it from tunnel locations. You can also use crypto for easy deposits, light invest payouts. Reminder, though, when you sign up with EdgeBoost, once again, you could use EdgeBoost to actually deposit into your MyBookie account. When you do head to MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN, you can get a 100% deposit match with the 1K. Terms and conditions apply. MyBookie.ag, promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the first two quarters in Madrid. Now it's time to keep it rolling for the third quarter in Madrid. Looking at the actual odds here. So for the third quarter, this is going to be what should be a pretty open one based on the draw. This is the Djokovic one, as he's in the same quarter as Berrettini, Draper, etc. Now for the actual pricing, Djokovic is plus 185. You have Berrettini at 5-1. You have Draper at 5-1 as well. Fonseca is at 550. Paul's at 9-1, Baez is 12-1, Kashanov's at 14-1, Griekspoor's at 20-1, Darderi's at 22-1, Tiafoe's at 25-1, Humbert's at 28-1, Arnaldi's 28-1, and you kind of get the point. So for the actual quarter, I'll address the main elephant in the room. Should you trust Djokovic or should you not trust Djokovic? Now for the actual draw, I think it's pretty favorable, actually, because for his actual section, he's in the immediate section of Baez, which is not too bad. Now, for the actual draw, face off against probably Arnaldi in the second round, which could be a bit tricky. We'll see. Buys, though, probably in the third round, not too bad. Then either Tiafoe or Humbert. Really not too shabby of a draw for Djokovic. Now, I said before, the other guys in the quarter are pretty intimidating, but they're all in the same half. So you're looking at Paul, Khachanov, Berrettini, and Draper all in the same half opposite of Djokovic. It's a great draw for Djokovic. I do think even though I don't trust his overall stamina and form to win a title on a 1,000 level on clay, I think he's good enough to get to the semis. We saw him make the final in Miami. I know that was a hard court event, but the point is he eventually fell short. He has making some good runs, even though he did lose early on, and of course Indian Wells and in his first clay event. In a while, he lost to Bilo in straight sets. I think he's in a good spot to once again get back to a pretty respectable showing, and I do think that 2-1 is a good price. Give me Djokovic at 2-1 as my first choice for the third quarter, mainly because of the draw. However, with Joker being a bit inconsistent, I am going to go with a long shot option that I think has some value based on current form. Give me Khachanov at 16-1. Think he's playing pretty good tennis at the moment. And I do think that he can maybe make a respectable showing. Pretty difficult section, I'll admit it, but I do think that Khachanov, who made a good run in Barcelona for losing to Rune, who did win the title, by the way, made the semis, though, beat Fekina in straight sets, beat Munar, beat Nori. Think he's been fine. Had a 3-set marathon against Medvedev in Monte Carlo. I think that his overall price is not too bad. We know Khachanov tends to raise his level with the higher stakes, and I do think his overall section is, I'd say, manageable, even though it is pretty difficult. Paul, we know, is okay on clay, but Berrettini and Draper will play against each other first, and I think Khachanov could have a decent path, does have a bye, then Opelka or a qualifier in the second round. Pretty reasonable. Fonseca might beat Paul, and then you go from there. But I do think that there's a chance Khachanov could end up facing off against either Paul or Fonseca, which I understand Fonseca has been very good. He won a clay title already this year, but I like the price at 16-1. It makes no sense conceptually with a bye and with a matchup against probably or potentially Opelka in the second round. It makes no sense that Fonseca is 550 to win the quarter and Khachanov 16-1. That pricing is just fundamentally wrong because Fonseca has to go against Paul first before facing off against Khachanov, and Khachanov has either Opelka or a qualifier. So give me Khachanov at 16-1. I think the price is wrong, so I'll go with that as my flyer. Hopefully, he can turn the clock back a bit and build on this recent showing that he had in Barcelona and route to a good run here in Madrid. Now, for the fourth quarter, this is the Alcaraz quarter, which means, by the way, you might end up getting a Djokovic and Alcaraz matchup in the semis, which is pretty fun. For the actual quarter, though, you have Alcaraz the favorite at minus 175. For the other options here, you have Tsitsipas at around 6-1 off the loss that he had to Musetti in Monte Carlo. You have de Minaur, who ended up losing Alcaraz in Barcelona. You have Musetti. You have Makic. You have Leheshka. Point is, though, you're looking at a lot of guys who have been relevant recently, but can even beat Alcaraz because Tsitsipas at 6-1 has been really bad against Alcaraz historically. De Minaur has lost to Alcaraz already, lost about a week ago. Musetti did lose to Alcaraz in the final. Monte Carlo, we'll see how he's doing physically after skipping the last week. You have Makic at around 16-1, who ended up actually beating Alcaraz on hard court last year. You have Leheshka at plus 2,000. Point is, though, you have a couple of guys who I think, once again, might be interesting, but will anyone beat Alcaraz? I would say no. Dimitrov's at plus 2,000. I want to throw him in there, too, but we saw Alcaraz destroy Dimitrov earlier this year on hard court. I think it's just Alcaraz's quarter to lose. It's in his home country. He's playing great tennis. I'm not going to roast him too much for losing to Rune in the final. He still made the final in back-to-back clay events, won a title in Monte Carlo, and Rune just went God mode. But I do think that 175 is honestly not that expensive for a guy that I think is that much better than the competition. I think that Tsitsipas is a guy who I would maybe consider, but in reality, he never beats Alcaraz, so I can't do it. If he was in somebody else's quarter, maybe, but I just can't do it. You're looking at the actual draw, though, for Alcaraz. It's not bad. Berg's in the second round, probably. Then Leheshka, maybe. Maybe Nori will see Dimitrov or Makic, which once again is not that bad. The other half, though, is very tough. You have de Minaur, you have Shapo, you have Tsitsipas, and Musetti. That is brutal for the other half. So you could argue it's kind of like the Djokovic logic where you'd rather back the half that's easier in a quarter. And when you're avoiding Musetti, Tsitsipas, Shapo, and de Minaur until the quarterfinals, that's a blessing right there based on the actual quarter. So once again, give me Alcaraz at minus 175. Think he has a pretty good opportunity to make it to at least the semis and beyond. So give me that as my main choice, my only choice for the fourth quarter. Anyway, time for the outright picks for the actual title lifting market here. So for the odds to win the title, of course, Alcaraz is favored because He's plus 200. You have Djokovic at around 8-1 or so. You have Zverev at 8-1 as well. You have Rune at around 18-1. You have Ruud at 20-1. Fritz at 28-1. Medvedev is 28-1. You have Fees at 28-1. You have Dimonara at 30-1. You have Draper at 30-1. Rublev, defending champion, 30-1. Tsitsipas 35-1. Berrettini 35-1. Fonseca 35-1. Insane price, by the way. Fonseca, same price as Tsitsipas and Berrettini. Sure, good luck with that. You have Musetti at 40-1. You have Mensik at 40-1. You have Cerundolo at 40-1. Felix 40-1. Fekina 50-1. You kind of get the point. So the real question here is, do I think anyone is going to seriously challenge Alcaraz to win the title? I'll say yes, but I'm still taking Alcaraz at plus 225. I just have to. I do think with him being a two-time champion, him being in his home country, and with the overall court speeds being faster in Madrid than most clay events, it does benefit Alcaraz. Now, Alcaraz, I do think, has a bit of a vulnerable serve compared to the other aspects of his game. I think the biggest weakness he has is the serve. But I do think with his overall court movement and with his overall firepower, he should look very sharp here in Madrid. I think he'll play well. And I do think after losing in the final in, once again, Barcelona to Rune, he might have some unfinished business here. But I think he'll look sharp here. I think that he's in good form. And I do think with him losing one clay match in the last two events to Rune in the final, he's playing very well. And I do think he's the best clay player in the world. So I'll go with him at plus 25 as my first choice in his home country to win the third title here in Madrid. For the second choice, though, I am going to go with Zverev at 10-1. Think that he's just playing good tennis right now. And I understand that he's a head case. I get it. I'm hoping, though, that he's finally back on track. He looked very sharp in Munich. Almost lost to Greek Sport. That was a scare needed, though. Bounced back, won the final 4 sets against Morozin and against Shelton. Yes, weaker competition than here, but I do like the overall draw for him. And I do think that Zverev, when he's on, is also a top 3 clay player in the world. I think that, once again, 10-1 is a good price. Market wide is mostly 8-1. I found a 10-1 on Bet365, I think. So I'll take that as my second choice for the outright. For the third choice, you know what? I'll go for glory here. Give me Fees at 34-1. He's lost 2 clay matches in the last 2 weeks, both to Alcaraz. So he's beating everybody else, and I like how he's playing. Think that when he's on, he definitely can showcase a solid Cinderella run. He's in the same quarter as Zverev, but I like how he's played, and I do think that he can beat Cerundolo. I think he can end up beating Zverev if he's on I'd say, good form day. But I think you're looking at Fees at 34-1, who's just really good on clay. And I do think that even though he lost to Alcaraz twice, if Alcaraz does get upset, other side of the bracket, he would avoid Alcaraz until the very end. Think you're looking at Fees, who can be interesting at 34-1. Mainly it's an option which I think is appealing because of the current form and because of the fact that if Zverev does end up losing, I think Fees would be my second choice to win that quarter. And for the second quarter, really not many guys I'm tempted by, because even though I understand the logic behind going for a Rune again or going for some... Yeah, that was an accident. Once again, I'm trying to experiment with this new software, so I can't use the down arrows, which is kind of annoying. So let me just try to... How the hell do I navigate this damn thing? Point is, though, for the second quarter, when you're looking at the options here, I think it's definitely interesting when you're looking at all of the people in the second quarter that you could be targeting. I think the people in the first quarter, I would take to beat the people in the second quarter. So if you're going to end up seeing a matchup between, for example, Zverev and maybe Rune in the semis, or you're looking at Fees against Rune in the semis, I think there's a pretty decent path for Fees to win that matchup. And you're expecting Rune to once again make it back to the semis after winning a title in Barcelona last week. Asking a lot for a guy that has a lot of physical issues over the course of a year. So I'll pass on the second quarter for the outrights. Give me the first quarter reign supreme in that top half. Give me Zverev at 10-1 and give me Fees at 34-1. So once again, my choices here for the outrights in the event here in Madrid. For the first quarter, for the actual quarter plays, I'm going to go with Zverev at 190. I'll go with Fees at 5-1. I'll go with the Pirate as my long shot at 39-1. Second quarter, though, give me Rune at 250. Give me Fritz at 360 and give me Medvedev at 8-1. Third quarter, give me Djokovic at 2-1 and give me Khachanov at 16-1. For the fourth quarter, give me Alcaraz by himself at minus 175. For the outrights to win the event, give me Alcaraz at plus 225. Give me Zverev at 10-1 and give me Fees at 34-1. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual outrights for the event in Madrid. Now it's time for the lock-in picks for that, though. A reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, On Fantasy. You can play the runner pick 'em for a chance to win your times or money. You could also, once again, use different sports, NBA, NHL playoffs. You could also use baseball, tennis, etc. You could also use the promo code SGPN to go on special convert time with an offer up to 1K bonus cash. On Fantasy promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. because they are the home of Dead Picks and Props. They're also available for baseball. If you want to try them out for the models, you can too. They have models on NBA and golf. You could also use your own model if you want to build one from scratch. Reminder though, they have 2 great discount codes right now. They have a 25% off discount and a 50% off discount. So if you want to use the promo code, once again, SGPN25, you get 25% off your monthly deal. You can also use SGPN50, 50% off your annual deal. Promo code SGPN50. Once again, for them, RATHM, promo code SGPN25 or SGPN50. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the outrights for Madrid. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. So for the lock, I am going to go with a parlay, actually. I found a parlay for 2, once again, matches that I find pretty appealing. For the lock, I'm going to go with a 2-pick parlay between Cilic moneyline and Norrie moneyline, and that pays out a -136 on, I believe, Bet Rivers. Now, for the actual form of both players, Cilic has been fantastic, actually, in the challenger level. He won a Clay Challenger event about a month ago. He's won 9 of his last 11 Clay Challenger matches. He's been really good, and I do think, based on current form, he's definitely dangerous to at least win one match. And Bonzi, despite being French, is really bad on clay. He's not won a clay match since May 2024, and you're looking at, once again, as a pretty decent favorite here by Cilic. I like the form, though. I think Norrie's not playing too well. Sorry, not Norrie. I think Bonzi's not playing too well, and I do think that Bonzi not playing on clay for about a year is pretty alarming, or not winning on clay for about a year is alarming. Give me Cilic to keep the form rolling from the challenger circuit. Give me him on the money line as my first choice here for the parlay. Norrie, though, is going to be my second choice on the money line. He has 2 career clay titles on the ATP level, pretty underrated. Beat Alcaraz on clay about a year or 2 ago to win a title, but he ended up beating De Zoomer, and he ended up beating Gaston in Barcelona qualifying last week. Pretty underrated clay player, and Landalucci is the home country guy who got a spot despite not deserving it because he's been awful lately. Landalucci has lost 8 of his last 9, so he's been an absolute mess. He's been getting killed on clay, on hard court, etc. Really bad year so far for the young Spaniard. I think that Norrie beats him. I think that Norrie is too rock solid. I see a lot of errors from Landalucci. I think Norrie will end up beating him. Lost a 3-setter to Kashanov in the last event, but Norrie I thought looked fine in that matchup, and Kashanov made a pretty good run. So I do think you're looking at Norrie winning against a pretty inferior opponent here. Give me the Cilic money line and the Norrie money line as my 2-pick parlay here at -136 of the lock. For the dog, though, once again, another parlay. Going to go with Berg straight sets against Nishioka, and we're going to go with Sina money line at +146. Berg's made the quarters in Munich last week. Thought he played pretty well. Looking at Nishioka, though, he's also not played on clay for a while. As Nishioka has not played a clay match since June 2024. He's a really bad clay player. That's why he doesn't play there. I see him struggling early on. Bergs has firepower. Nishioka wants to play defensive, but with him not playing for a while because he has not played a match since March 20th where he got injured and retired against Gaston, bit of rust might play a factor. Question the durability, and I question the form on clay. Bergs, though, was good last week in Munich. I think that he's in a good spot to make a good run, potentially. Give me Bergs and straights. That's my first choice here for the parlay. For the second choice, I will fade Wong, who never plays on clay, and he's also really bad on clay. Wong has not played a clay match since May 2024. He's 4-14 straight up on clay in his career. As for, once again, his opponent, Sina, he is a pretty underrated clay player. I believe he's 13-9 on clay in the last year. Mostly fading Wong, though. The thing about these events is that you tend to get a lot of guys who show up for the prize money. They have no chance at actually winning matches, and I will fade a couple of really bad clay players who I think should be dead on arrival for the event. So once again, for the actual picks here for the lock and dog, I'll go with 2 parlays. The lock, I'll go with a 2-big moneyline parlay, Cilic moneyline and Norrie moneyline at -136 on Bet Rivers. For the dog, it's also on Bet Rivers. Give me Berg straight sets against Nishioka and Sina moneyline against Wong at +146. That's going to wrap it up, though, for the picks of the first round of Madrid. We're back once again for the second round in the event. Check in the comments section. I see a bunch of usual suspects here, a lot of familiar faces. I see Joe stopping by. A lot to ask if I think that Martinez is a good bet for the match in the first round. Honestly, no. I think it's going to be a close match regardless, so I'd actually skip that one. I think it should be a war, so I'll pass on that. See Ian stopping by, Leonard stopping by, and same thing with JD. Once again, apologies for the technical issues using this new streaming platform, so apologies about the, let's say, a little bit of a learning process for me. I'm kind of the learner that dives in with both feet and trying to actually learn on the fly. So apologies if once again it was a little bit hectic, but hopefully it's not too bad. It'll get better as time goes on. Till next time, though, good luck to all of you and all of your